Ladies and gents, this is the moment you're waiting for.
Really?
Yeah.
That was necessary?
Yeah.
Well then, I guess
had to be done.
I guess it's no question what movie we're doing. So that's great. So yeah, this week's podcast, I guess, is The Greatest Showman.
The Greatest Showman.
That I chose because it's been a long time on my list, but you don't like musicals. So it was put off for...
I mean, if it's this kind of quality musical, I will put up with it. That was...
Okay, but before
great.
we actually watched it, were you excited to see it?
Not at all.
No. I kept putting it to the bottom of my list. I'm like, ugh, he doesn't like music, like whatever. And then I just decided we're watching it. And you're happy, right?
Oh, it was a great choice.
So I need to force you into movies more often?
I feel like this is a trap.
The answer is yes. I mean, I can tell by your face. The answer is yes. Okay, so The Greatest Showman.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Shay, and this is cinematically correct. And before we do the brief synopsis, which I really want to see you struggle through, I'm not going to lie, we do have a beer.
Well, before we get to that, I'd like to talk briefly about our personal experience with the circus, just for a few minutes.
Oh, boy.
So it's honestly one of the fondest memories I have of my grandpa.
Was it Barnum and Bailey?
It was not. It was the Shriner Circus.
The Shriner Circus? I don't think I've ever heard of that.
It was put on by the Shriners, and he was part of that organization. So we would go, and it was just a regular circus. It wasn't anything experience. I wish I had seen Ringling Brothers. I might have at some point.
I've seen the Ringling Brothers when I was a kid, obviously.
I think I probably have as well. I don't remember it very often, but
okay.
Well.
Anyways,
I find it fun. I got to ride an elephant. It was a cool experience. I got popcorn, peanuts, all of that stuff.
Cotton candy,
exactly.
The whole thing. Yeah. I mean, I definitely remember going as a kid. I actually went with my aunt and uncle, I believe. And they're crazy people. So it was just like the whole experience, the whole thing. And then seeing like the tricks and stuff like that for me was just like crazy. Like I remember thinking to myself, like, how is that real?
Yeah.
But there isn't any anymore, but there is Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, it's harder and harder to find an actual circus. I think that most of them, if not all of them, are out of business.
Well, I did Google because like gotta do like some kind of event, like part of like, you gotta do an event with the movie that you're watching. It's the way to enjoy a movie. So I looked for circuses and there was nothing. Like I looked circuses Massachusetts, circuses New England, whatever, nothing. So Cirque du Soleil was the closest I found, and I mean I like Cirque du Soleil, but it's not the same. It doesn't have the same pizzazz.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Somebody's got to remake a circus.
Well, there's obvious reasons why that won't happen, but we'll get into that later. Okay, so are you ready for your beer?
I am ready for the beer. So there were very few choices for something that's remotely applicable to this. You
were also hella picky this time.
I wasn't no.
You were like, oh, I'm going to hate it if you make me get these. So
I went with Wild Little Thing.
And what does that have to do with the circus?
The circus is a wild event.
I see. We've censored our answer.
Sierra Nevada. The can looks almost like a circus tent.
I'll give you that. The can does look circus-esque.
So it's a slightly sour ale. Also, they had a person of diminutive stature as part of the circus. So that's also applicable.
Oh, the words we choose to use to make things sound better than they are.
I might actually like this one compared to the last several.
That's why you picked it.
Oh, yeah, it's really nice. I'll give that a solid 4.2.
So that's the moment you were waiting for.
Great. That's going to keep coming back around.
Had to do it. Okay, so do you have a brief synopsis? Because I'm very curious where you're going to go with this.
Brief synopsis.
Brief synopsis.
It's a semi-biographical following of P.T. Barnum as he creates his Museum of Curiosities and eventually the circus.
Okay, yeah, that was fair. Actually, you didn't go off track, which I expected you to. I expected it to go a little awry.
With great songs through the entire movie.
The man who doesn't like music saying this. Interesting.
Yeah, which means that it's worth the price of admission just for that.
Well, it's not in theaters anymore. It came out quite a long time ago, but I get the gist. Okay, so there's really not a lot of cast to really go into. Not to say there's not a lot of people in it, but not a lot of people that were like main characters. But we'll go into a few of them. Obviously, Hugh Jackman,
P.T. Barnum.
I mean, he's the most delightful human.
Yeah,
like Hugh Jackman. I mean.
Oh yeah, if I were to be cast or in a movie, like if my life was ever to be a movie, that would be the highest compliment.
Yeah, so he's great, obviously, as P.T. Barnum. Like, you can't not like him. He sings amazing, which I did not know that about him. I have since learned he's been in other musicals, but I didn't know that going into this movie. Obviously, I saw the trailers and stuff, but holy crap, he's also choreographically amazing. But I actually learned something about Hugh Jackman, and I wanted to tell you. Okay. I'm sure you know this. It came across, like, my Facebook or TikTok or something. I don't even know, but it came up. Anyways, he used to be a gym teacher. Do you know this?
I do know this, yes.
So he got interviewed by some guy, and I don't know if it was for this movie or what it was for. It was in a junket. And the guy asked him, like, how he was doing and how he enjoyed the movie and whatever. And the guy was like, no. Hugh Jackman goes, no. How are you? You were in my gym class. Are you still doing well? Have you been practicing? And he was like all flabbergasted. He didn't know what to say. And Hugh Jackman called him by name. And he was like, I always love seeing a past student. And like, it just makes me so happy to see you grow. And like, you could just tell by his face that he was genuinely happy. And the poor kid was bright red in the face. He did not know what to do.
I have seen that interview, and it's just a great moment.
It's one of those things where you're just like, wow, he's a person. Like,
it's like that moment with Heath Ledger where he kisses a superfan and she faints on the red carpet.
Yeah.
Like, he's giving an interview and then just some random woman walks by and just is struck. He goes and kisses her and she just collapses on the ground. It's one of those great moments.
One of those moments where you're like, oh yeah, they are people too. They're not just celebrities, but that whole thing just kind of like, I don't know, captures who he is as a person. And it's so hard to not like him. Now, is he a good fit for P.T. Barnum and who he was? We'll get into that later. But for this movie, he really made you...
I mean, who else are you going to cast ahead of Hugh Jackman for that part with the way that this...
With the way this movie went, I don't know. Because, I mean, he did great, right?
Like, is there anyone that could pull that off? Maybe Ryan Reynolds, because he can also sing, as we found out with the I Can Be Brown, I Can Be Blue.
He is great.
Yeah.
There was a movie that was supposed to happen, but ended up getting pulled because of like a bad box office or whatever. But it was going to be a Barnum biopic, and it was going to star John Belushi. So I don't know how, like, it was supposed to kind of highlight him as a con man and a businessman, but like, I wonder how he would do or would have done.
I mean, he's more similar to
the real
P.T. Barnum, I would imagine.
The seedy side,
yeah. He's got that comedic, I'm gonna just hustle, and he's got that right energy.
Yeah.
So that would have been an interesting thing.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, I could talk about Hugh Jackman for the rest of my life. Michelle Williams. Now, I knew her from Dawson's Creek. But you knew her from something else, didn't you?
I mean, probably. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I feel like you said something during the movie, but she plays P.T. Barnum's wife, Charity. And I mean, honestly, they don't give us a lot with her. Right. I mean, I like her as an actress. There's nothing wrong with her, but they don't give us a lot of scenes with her. She's just kind of like a supporting character. So I don't have a lot to say there. I feel like you're doing some research. What are we doing?
I'm trying to find out where I would know her from.
You mentioned something when we were watching this. I said, "Oh, that's the girl from," and you were like, "Oh, it's this." And I'm like, "No, not that."
Shutter Island I've seen.
Okay, that might be what you said.
So
I have not seen Shutter Island, so it would make sense. And I was like, "No, not that." But yeah, so not much for her. Do you have anything with her?
I mean, she was a fine casting choice. I mean, she was a background character for the movie. It's really focused on him and the other main characters.
Yeah, the supportive wife role was really not what they played here because she complained more than she supported, even though like she was agreeable, but
she just wanted to spend time with her husband. She didn't care about the money. She didn't care about anything other than being with the person that she chose and having a family with him.
I mean, but let's be real. In the 1860s, where this is supposed to take place, there is no way that father was letting her marry off to a man who had no money.
Oh,
I'm
no, that's
sorry.
You are not. No, he's just straight out. He's paying someone to have P.T. Barnum killed.
Well, and also, wouldn't at that time period, now I don't know my history, so maybe not, but at this time period, wouldn't you like be paying like a fee to the father? Like, you know,
well,
something?
this is very much you have to ask for the blessing. There's the whole agreement. It's almost for the upper class. It's almost like a transaction business deal.
Yeah.
It's
and they were upper class, so confusing, but it's a movie. Zac Efron. So, you know, he's a Disney Channel guy, you know, and I always have this bias every time I see him, but honestly, he is a really good actor.
Honestly, he killed it in this, and he killed a lot of people as Ted Bundy.
Yes, that is true.
So he's come a long way since Disney Channel. I will give him full credit that he was a good choice for this movie.
Yeah, so he plays Philip Carlyle, and it's loosely based off of Bailey.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that they couldn't have just gone with Bailey from Barnum and Bailey.
Yeah, but I mean, it does say in a lot of things that he's a completely fictional character, but there are attributes that are based off of Bailey. And it seems like he's kind of put in there as a character that helps Barnum get the upper class audience. But I really liked him. I mean, I don't know. Every time I see him now, I'm just kind of like, okay, you know what? I like you. And he's got a great voice. And of course we knew that.
He's got a great voice, and he was great in this movie. He's had some really bad movies. I think he was in like Bad Grandpas or something.
I don't know what that is. Bad Grandpas? Is that a movie?
I'm pretty sure there's a movie where it's Robert De Niro.
And hold on, I'm doing a little scroll. Hold on. Dirty Grandpa?
That's it. Dirty Grandpa. Yeah.
What is that?
I haven't seen it. I've just seen the trailer and it looked horrendous.
So if you guys have seen Dirty Grandpa and it's not horrendous, let us know. If it is horrendous, also let us know. Because I'm just more curious what this is. Because now all I'm thinking about is a perverted grandpa. That's what I'm thinking.
I mean, I think that's basically the premise. And just he gets a lot of crap for being from Disney Channel. That's how he got his break. But he's come a long way.
Yeah, he sure has. Okay, then there's Zendaya. The reason I'm bringing her up is because, one, she was the love interest of Carlisle. She's also another made-up character for the movie. She plays Ann Wheeler, which was a trapeze artist, right?
Yes, an acrobat trapeze artist.
Yeah. And she's also a Disney Channel star.
She's a Disney Channel star, and she was actually based loosely off of Miss Lala.
I don't know who that is, Miss Lala.
Well, there's a very famous painting by Degas of her in the air, flying through the air.
Oh.
So there is some historical basis there, but it's
just not her specifically.
I don't know why they couldn't just use the actual people, but whatever.
Because then they would have to be a biopic, which we're not.
Okay.
Anyway, but I liked her character. I don't actually know her from Disney Channel. I know she's a Disney Channel star, but I think that might have been past my time. Because I don't know her.
I don't think I've seen her in anything Disney Channel. The last thing I can remember seeing her in was the Spider-Man series.
I don't think I saw her in Spider-Man.
But it's the new one coming out. She's definitely involved in that. I think.
Okay, so you saw her in trailers. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mean, I did like her character, but again, a lot of the stuff was supporting. There wasn't a lot of, other than Zac Efron and Hugh Jackman, nobody else really like had character development or anything, which of course is so
other than
important
the great
for me.
Musical ensembles where the Bearded Lady had great numbers, and
she's apparently also from Les Mis.
Yeah, she's a huge Broadway star.
She's got an amazing voice. The beard is also hella fake, and it's so hard not to look at in this movie. Okay, but anyways, that's everything for the characters. The first thing you said you wanted to talk about was the soundtrack, which of course you've been harping on, so like I know you're ready.
I mean, just straight starting strong, and it was great the entire way. Like, no complaints. This might have been better than Baby Drivers for music.
So
it's just so good.
One thing I wanted to ask you. So I always talk about, I mean, probably not on the podcast per se, but I talk about in general in life that I don't like period pieces, and I don't. I tend to get a little bit bored by things that are like period based.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a unique situation because it is a period piece, but it's not. The anachronisms, you would lose count trying to count them, right? And then also the music. The music is definitely anachronistic because it's very modern.
It is, but it isn't though. It's totally in line with the movie. Like it works.
It's in line with the movie, but it's not in line with the time.
No, it's a period piece without the period accuracy.
Right. So it's like one of those things that like it gets you hyped up. It's great. You're in it. But like if you wanted an 1860s style music, this ain't it.
No. I mean, the only other movie that I can think of that is similar to that would be Knight's Tale with the Queen, We Will Rock You when they're jousting. Like that just is... I'm watching that to have fun. I'm not watching it to have historical accuracy and have jousting medieval times music. No, I want that just goes. It's a great pair.
No, I get that. I was just curious because I know a lot of people always kind of come at me for you like these movies, but this is a period piece. And it's like, but it's not. It's just not. So yeah, I mean, I love this music. I was first introduced to this music from TikTok, obviously. I mean, if you guys haven't seen any of these songs on TikTok, then you're really not on TikTok because it's all over it. And the song, I don't remember the name of it, but the one where they're in the bar, that one is like, I mean, I knew all the words before I saw the movie because of TikTok. So, I mean, I was down for it. And I just it gets you so hyped up.
Good. It was so good.
It's great.
I've been listening to the soundtrack since we watched the movie.
Yes, you have. Which is weird because you don't like music. No. So, weird. Okay, so I'm going to go a little out of order since you already brought up the fact that it's not really the same real life thing, whatever. So we should talk about it. So Ryan Terry actually asked us on Twitter, and he wanted to know specifically your feelings, probably because you're a history guy, of the fact that this is not historically accurate.
No. So I had known some of the real life history before seeing this movie. And so I went into it with that in the back of my mind. I think if it had tried to be more of a biopic and not just a fun musical with historical themes, it would have bothered me a lot more.
Okay.
It didn't really bother me because you're going into this movie and you're listening to the music, you're having a good time, and it's kind of pushed to the back, and it's less noticeable.
Okay. So I mean, I will say I come from a different perspective because obviously I didn't know much about him. I knew a few things here and there. I knew he was a con man. That I knew. I didn't know the racism. I didn't know the extent of the con manning. I didn't know that like the other business deals he had. I didn't know that he didn't start until he was 60. Like there was a lot of things that I didn't know, but I knew he was a con man. But honestly, the movie did show him as a con man.
It did. And honestly, you could almost debate the con if you're getting your money's worth. Are you being conned? Like, are you getting what you paid for? Yeah. Even if it's not real, that you're paying for the experience. But like there's a lot of problematic things that were glossed over and it was kind of polished up and made to look nice for this movie. So the first one being his first display piece, which
did not make the movie for obvious reasons.
Did not make the movie because he rented a slave.
Mm-hmm.
She was an elderly woman, and he purported that she was 161 years old, and George Washington's nurse.
Yep.
Her
name was Joyce Heth.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
She seemed to play along, and
yeah, she told like lullabies and stories from George Washington. Apparently,
that were made up.
Yeah.
It is kind of terrible that he sold tickets to her autopsy when she died.
Yeah. Yep. That happened.
That's very problematic.
Yep. Yep.
So there's a lot of that. I mean, there's a lot of stories of him not being a particularly upfront and honest kind of guy. Most people falsely attribute there's a sucker born every minute to him, myself included, until I did the research. It looks like it may have been one of his competitors watching the lines out the door for his museum. And they're going, sucker born every minute, and he's going to take every dollar. kind of
But he didn't
jealous.
say it.
No.
Okay, interesting.
He did come up with an elegant solution to the people staying too long in the museum.
Oh boy, okay.
Where he would say, this way to the egress, and people would go that way thinking it was an exhibit and not realizing that it was a different word for exit. And so they would be found on the street and they'd have to pay admission to get back in.
I mean, smart business move, con man. I don't know. So, I mean, yeah, the difference between a businessman and a con man is such a blurred line because, I mean, at the end of the day, what's the difference?
I think the difference is success. Like if you pull it off, you're a businessman. If you fail, you con someone out of their money.
That's fair.
Like when he basically committed fraud against the bank for the loan, it worked out and he paid the loan back, but that's technically fraud.
It's not technically fraud. It's fraud.
It's very much
Yeah,
fraud.
that is, yeah. Well, there is one part of the story that I couldn't confirm nor deny, but it seems leaning in one direction that I wanted to know your thoughts on. So apparently, the fire. Now, did you read this? What the real story?
About the historical fire?
Yes.
No.
So there is a strong rumor, and I couldn't confirm it for sure, but that he started said fire.
I mean, I can see that for the insurance purposes if he had.
Now, I don't know what insurance was back then and whatever.
It was there was no, that's a risky thing to do.
Right.
Because insurance is a brand new concept.
Now, does that make him morally corrupt, or do you think at the time it was something needed to do and it was a smart business move and
oh no, you're not supposed to commit arson for the insurance
how
money.
You felt. You seem to, but I mean, it seems like they're saying that. Also,
related to that, did you know that for this movie, they started a controlled fire on the set that got out of hand and burned the actual set down?
Yes, I saw that. I also saw though that they learned what it would look like on fire. So
that's method. I'm sorry, that's method. Like
the fire was method acting.
That's commitment to your art and your cause. I will fully. You should have played off and go, no, we meant to burn it down. Yeah. Totally.
Why doesn't the fire have his own IMDb entry?
Exactly.
I mean, but so the other thing that there's a debate about is how he treated the acts. So the oddities or the freaks, as they call them, or all of that type of stuff. The movie tries to portray it that he bolsters them. Although when he gets Tom Thumb, it kind of goes both ways because the kid says, they're going to be laughing at me. And he's like, they're going to laugh at you anyway. Why not get paid for it?
Might as well get paid. Which I can 100% see that happening as a real conversation when he's trying to recruit people. I mean, might as well make money at it. Like you'll be laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, but also that's kind of crap. That's kind of a crappy thing to say. But they do say that he didn't treat them very well. And he kind of exploited them. So, I mean, I don't know. Does those things bother you knowing, looking at this and feeling empowered and feeling excited about this movie and then realizing this person that it's based on is actually horrible dog crap.
Yeah, I mean, it is very problematic. I mean, part of it is exploitation, but also they were getting paid and they were getting paid very well. And were
they getting paid really well in real life?
Well, Tom Thumb was making a lot of money.
Okay, so you did do the research on that.
$25 a week, which was an unheard of thing, and he would have likely had a difficult time finding other employment. Right, because of his stature. Yeah, exactly. So part of it is exploitation, but also at the same time, the Siamese twins came out of retirement to go back on the road with Barnum because they needed money to send their kids to college. That's not exploitation. They're willing to go back for their family. That's them working.
You realize you're going to get attacked for this, right? I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I do think that if you want to take advantage of something to make money, if you decide that you don't care that people are going to laugh at you or make fun of you, and that's the choice you make personally, then I say go for it, right? But when somebody else recruits you, that becomes a little bit murky.
I mean, if they're facilitating it, but you're still being paid for it, and you've agreed to it. You're not obligated to that person.
Right.
I think it's a little bit more gray than people let on.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely more gray. I mean,
also at this time, there was not a whole lot of options for a lot of these people, and they were making decent money. Even if they were being gawked at and looked at and ridiculed, they still were able to provide for themselves and their family.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's what all of us want to do, is just be able to make a living. Okay, so there is one other discrepancy, and it leads into a topic in the movie that I also want to talk about. So Jenny Lind, right?
Yeah.
So this is a fictional thing, right? So the woman, Jenny Lind, did go on tour with Barnum. That really happened in real life, and he helped promote her, even though it had nothing to do with the circus, and it's a very strange departure for him.
They made some stupid money.
They did. But there was never a romance. There was never any of that. So, first of all, my question would be, was that whole part of the movie necessary?
No. Flat out no. Like, it's completely stupid to pigeonhole that in when he's already married. You have historical accuracy that you could just lean on and say, no, they part ways.
Because of his crappy, shady marketing tactics.
He was the first ever promoter of everything.
Right.
Like he promoted a person's death. Like that's gross.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Yeah. So I mean, as I always kind of talk about with the Bechdel test and stuff, right? This kind of stuff makes me feel like these movies fail miserably because the women in this movie are treated just horribly. The wife is just this background character who really doesn't even contribute in any way, shape, or form. And then Jenny Lind I hated her in this movie. I'm just going to say that outright. Like, she was awful. She was making advances on him. And then when he denied her because he was married, which she full well knew because she met his wife, she was like, well, I'm not going to go with you anymore because you won't like be with me. And it's like, girl, what? Like, you knew he was married. Like, what? Like, you couldn't not hate her. I mean, like, she was made for you to hate.
Do you think you would hate the real life Jenny Lind? Did you look into her at all?
And no, she was wonderful. She gave all of her money to charity. Like, girl,
$350,000 to fund schools in Sweden, which today would be around $10.8 million.
Now, why? I want to know whoever made this decision. Why couldn't we have this woman be this amazing, wonderful woman who just didn't like the con man like she was in real life? Why can't we have that? Is that not sexy? Is that not a strong, independent woman?
I think they covered up and kind of hid the fact that he's a con man and not a reputable person for this movie. And that would have kind of conflicted with the narrative they were telling.
I mean, the critic kept saying how much of a con man he was. Why can't a woman say it?
That is fair. And also, in a lot of places, the acts were, when they were recruiting him back after the fire, they're like, come on, when have you ever been an honest person in the past?
Right.
Like,
so they say it plenty of times, and they don't need to make a big deal of it, but they could have at least let her be the amazing person that she was.
She could have been more accurate to real life and a stronger character. I will fully agree with you on that. I mean, there's so many inaccuracies on that. I mean, I will forgive the fact that they had him recruiting Carlisle in a bar because he was a teetotaler and didn't drink, because we got that scene. Like,
that scene. Oh, that was such a good scene. I'll watch that over and over.
That scene actually got this movie greenlit, and they wrote it on the plane ride there.
It's an amazing scene. But he didn't drink?
No, P.T. Barnum was a teetotaler and abstained.
I don't know what a teetotaler is.
Someone who abstains from alcohol. So he does not drink. You were a teetotaler, dear.
What? I've never heard the word teetotaler. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from prohibition, which is just after.
And you don't know what it means? It just means doesn't drink?
Doesn't drink.
Couldn't you just be sober? Like, why does it have to be teetotaler? This is so weird. It sounds like he's like...
I think it's that they only drink tea.
Oh, so it's English.
I think it's nothing stronger than tea shall pass these lips, if I remember correctly.
So from England. Has to be.
Or, the prohibition movement was a lot of rich women in the United States pushing that. So they did have tea and all of that.
Interesting. Well, I'm not going to be called a teetotaler. Thank you.
Well, you are.
But anyway, to sum up all of that, did all of those inaccuracies affect your viewing? So you're saying no because you didn't go into it with that expectation.
I wasn't expecting a perfectly historical accurate biopic documentary style movie. I didn't know what to expect, honestly. And then right out of the gate, the tone with the ladies and gents, I was hooked and sold on this movie.
Now, should we talk about, given that you said that, the difference between a biopic and this, like why we're giving this leeway? Because we have said in the past on this podcast that it does bother us when a story is true and they change it so much to make it Hollywood.
I think that's a fair point of contention because a lot of movies we watch, there's not that fun musical aspect of it where there's just a lot of moving pieces and it's a great fast moving story where they're trying to be more serious. I think my distinction is if you're trying to be serious, it doesn't hurt you to be as accurate as possible. If you're trying to be a fun, upbeat movie, you're given a little bit more leeway with that, with creative license to get the narrative that you want, to get the movie and the soundtrack that you want. I would give you a little bit more leeway than if you're doing a serious drama movie.
I guess that's fair. I think for me, the distinction comes a little bit where with movies like there was a war one that I remember it really bothered us. So there was a love story added in. They were like on a boat. I can't remember, but it was a podcast movie that we did. And that really, really bothered us because the love story didn't really exist. And we talked about it a lot on here.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, the difference is with those true stories, the bulk of the movie is a true story. Like what you're watching is just the story. You're watching to find out what happened. With this movie, you're not really watching to find out what happened with P.T. Barnum. You're watching for a feel-good, empowering, upbeat, family-friendly type movie. You're not looking for the story. You're not looking to hear what happened with P.T. Barnum.
In this movie, it's almost as if you're one of the original people that he was presenting to, and you're getting a show. Right. It doesn't matter that it's true. It doesn't matter.
Right. Now, if you started telling me the story,
right,
like the actual story, and it started to become true, like, and then you neglected to tell me certain parts because you wanted to make him look better than he was or something, I would start feeling a little bit different. But this more felt like a production versus like you weren't telling me a story.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It's in keeping with his ethos as a person. It's the whole humbug. It's humbug.
Yeah.
Which I wrote down what that means. It's consists in putting on glittering appearances outside show, novel expedients by which to suddenly arrest public attention and attract the public eye and ear. So they're going for the presentation. That's clear with this movie that it's all about the presentation rather than the actual facts.
So this is like the what was the mermaid called that he had?
The Fiji
mermaid. So this is like the Fiji mermaid of his life. Like they took the monkey head, which was the actual life, and then they put it on the spectacle little mermaid tail, and they put it together and they made a movie.
Exactly.
Is it a bad thing that it's a fraud if it made you smile? That's the question.
Are you being conned if you are happy that you spent the money to go do it?
Right, which is one of the questions we actually wanted to talk about was the morality of that. You know, is it a bad thing to go to a show that is completely fake, where they're presenting it as real, if you enjoyed it? Is that a shady, shisty type thing? So that's the same thing with this movie. Is it a shady, shisty thing that you've given me a movie that you presented as being P.T. Barnum's basically movie when it's not, and it's not meant to be, and if you read into it at all, you'd learn it was nothing?
I don't think so. I mean, there's been for a long time in this country, it's buyer beware, and it's your choice on what you spend your money on. If you spend it on something and you're not happy, that's your fault. Like, they don't have any obligation to give you anything other than the experience that they promise you.
And I mean, they did also use the words inspired by true events versus based on true events. Those tend to be different. And if you see inspired, it usually means it's a very loose interpretation.
Yeah. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's a guy that had a chainsaw in Texas, and that's it. Like, that's not really the same.
Right.
You have to go into it with that kind of mindset. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed.
So, I mean, you feel that since it made you happy, just like Barnum felt, doesn't matter if they, took a few liberties.
Those smiles seem genuine to me. Like he's not hurting anyone if they're happy. Like he's taking the money, he's providing a service. And
now if the movie had done it in a way that didn't elicit happiness and made you annoyed by the situation, then you would feel it was crappy.
Yes, exactly. So I think that's where I draw the line.
So it really is, though.
It's subjective.
Yeah. So, I mean, we enjoyed it, so we're going to accept it. But if we didn't enjoy it, we probably would be shitting on it right now, is basically what he's saying.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Well, at least we've agreed to that. We don't really have a lot else that we wanted to talk about. We do have in here the morality of having the freak show and the fact that it did exist prior, from what you've said, to this. But like, you're saying that it's okay because they're getting paid. Do you think that it would be acceptable in today's culture?
I mean, I think we still very much have that fascination with the bizarre, the weird.
We do.
Things out of the ordinary.
You see those articles come across Facebook all the time, right, of like the person who, I don't know, has some disease that makes them look this way, or
like there is that fascination. There is part of that in our society.
I think kind of sad, to be honest, that we're fascinated by that.
I think a lot of it is shifted to reality television. So it's not really people with deformities, it's people with deformed character.
Nice. Are you talking about any reality stars in particular, or
all of them? Blanket statement, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that we've always had this fascination with watching other people who are different than us, and I think, or similar to us, but get to do things that we would never do, right? Like but I think that when it becomes a physical deformity or physical attribute that others don't have, it gets a little questionable, because it has to be, in some ways, an insecurity if it's different than others. And, should we be kind of exploiting that, especially given that even if you give consent to exploit said deformity or whatever, the people nowadays would say that you're giving consent, but you don't know what you're giving consent to, and you don't know what damage you're causing. So
you'd be saying, well, it's fine for you, but what about all of the people like you that may have that insecurity, and you are setting them back because you're making a quick buck for yourself personally?
But we say that, and then there's the reality show with, what is it called? Little People? I forget what it's called. It's called something similar to that, where it's literally all people who are shorter than 4'11" or whatever the height is. And it's a reality show watching them. And maybe people say that they watch it because they like their personalities or whatever, but like it's also the fascination.
I mean, I just think that you have the ability to decide that for yourself, where you feel comfortable if you have something unique about yourself. I mean, one of the acts is a guy that has tattoos. Like, I mean,
it was like 389 or something.
Like, if you had tattoos, you did that voluntarily. Like, that's not a...
That's not... Well, I mean, maybe at the time that was...
Oh,
really...
it was very taboo back in the day.
Right.
That is very true.
Now, granted, the having a person of color in there and calling them a freak literally because they were a person of color is not okay. Now, I don't know if that's something that he actually did or if they just did that in this movie. But that part made me a little uncomfortable. She was a trapeze artist. She was also black,
African American. Yep.
Was she considered a freak because of it, or
she was not? I think she was controversial in the United States. During this time, because this is very much 1860s, before the civil, it's before the Civil War is fixed.
Of course.
So there's a lot of tension there in that regard.
Yeah.
And it's an unfortunate, horrible part of our history that we shouldn't shy away from and forget, but at the same time, we shouldn't glorify the people on the wrong side.
100% agreed. It's just, I didn't like how in the movie they made it seem like they were freaks because of that. And, obviously they show the love story and they show how people react to her and all of that. And it just was kind of like, to me, like, that shouldn't be considered something that makes you abnormal or...
That's just part of our reality. back in that time. Like, it's a horrible part of our history.
It is.
And that is something that we have to overcome.
Now, do you think that they dealt with that well in this movie, like the racism, or do you think that they glossed over it? Because I mean, I'm gonna say one thing. It was 1860. That relationship would have never happened. Not only because
they would have had to go to Canada.
Well, it was different class structure, first of all. So let's ignore the race, first of all. Carlisle was from a rich family, and from what it seemed like, she was not.
Yeah.
This would never have happened.
No.
First of all. Second of all, she was from the circus, and he was from what we could see,
high society of New York City.
Again, would never happen. Then you get into the race. So she's already got 2 strikes on her. The race part wouldn't have even come into play. It wouldn't have, she wouldn't have gotten that far. But if it did, there's no way he would have been able to say, I don't care what my parents think, I'm going to do what I want. No. No. In high class society, that son is 100% doing what his father says, or he is going to be cut off from all of society.
He's cut off out of the will.
Right.
No longer.
He would be basically a nobody. He would have nothing.
Yeah.
So no, that would not have happened. I get that they did it to.
I think that they tried to reintroduce some of that because there's a lot of problematic things with the real story that were not covered in this movie. I think they wanted at least part of that in the movie
to show that unfortunately was a struggle back then.
Yes.
And I liked that they did it in a way that was empowering and showed good things. But, you know, that one part of the movie, I was just kind of like, but no way. No way. I don't believe you. All of the marriages in this movie, it was like, no. No. But anyway, so that's everything I think I have for the particular movie. I feel like we're probably missing something because...
I mean, that's possible.
The content of the movie itself, there wasn't a lot of content. It just made you so happy, you know, but there wasn't a lot of content.
It was a fun movie to just watch and watch again and again. Like, this is a movie that you could watch over and over again without a problem.
But if you're going there for a story and character development, you're not going to get a lot of that. No. He himself had character development somewhat.
But this is not the movie for that. It's not a... I
mean, he was a young child already dreaming and saying he was going to make big things. So like...
Which is a great message. And I love that opening. I wrote down it when we were watching this, that I love the opening message of you are what you want to be. And
I wrote that too. I mean, it's an amazing message, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't leave a lot of room for growth. Yeah. I mean, that kid is already going places, you know what I'm saying? So if you're in for the movie for a good story or for character development, this isn't what you're here for. This is to be entertained. So that's what I'll say. But you do have quite a history minute, I have to imagine.
Tyler's History Minute.
I have a bit. So
strap in, guys. It's going to be a long ride.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
Oh, boy. I'm so sorry this is happening.
So he started the circus at 60 after having the stationary museum. The Barnum and Bailey Circus, which was then merged with Ringling Brothers, unfortunately closed down in 2017. Their last show was in May.
We should have gone.
It was plagued by low attendance and problems with the animal treatment and animal cruelty groups.
Yes.
So the Siamese twins that were in this movie were part of his act for a long time. Their name were Chang and Eng Bunker. And that's actually where we get the word Siamese twins, because they were from Siam.
Oh.
So,
I didn't know like the word came from somewhere. I just figured it was like...
it's because of P.T. Barnum.
Oh.
So that's one of 2 words that we now use that stem from his exhibits.
And number 2 is?
Jumbo.
The elephant?
Jumbo the elephant, which he purchased from the London Zoo. Mm-hmm. Jumbo Mania was a thing. He was the biggest thing in the United States.
So we didn't call things jumbo before, like the size?
No, that's where we get the word jumbo. It's from the name of an elephant from P.T. Barnum.
That's kind of cool. Thanks, P.T. Barnum. I like that word.
He made an obscene amount of money from the Jenny Lind tour. He wasn't bankrupt from that. She made $350. He made $500, which is around $15 million.
He made more than her because he was her promoter?
Yeah.
That is not how it works today. The main act makes the money. The promoter makes bank. Don't get me wrong, but the main act makes the money, right? I hope.
Yeah, I mean...
Weird, but okay.
So he had the problematic first exhibit. He did try to mend that.
Problematic? That's the word we're using?
Horrified.
Deplorable.
Yeah. Depraved and miserable first exhibit. He did wind up ending up on the other side of the argument and being a strong abolitionist later in his life.
He switched parties.
He did. He spoke in front of the Connecticut legislature about ratifying the 13th Amendment and basically saying, people are people. You have an immortal soul from God. It doesn't matter what body you're in. We're all the same. It's all the same soul, essentially. He was a teetotaler, meaning he didn't drink.
I feel like that word is going to haunt me now.
He read his own obituary.
How do you read your own obituary?
So he requested, because he was dying of a stroke. He requested that
He was dying of a stroke? Don't you just die?
No, well, he was apparently alive, and he looked
So he died of complications from a stroke, is what you're saying. Okay. I'm like, what is this, like the longest stroke?
He requested the local newspaper send him his obituary so he could read it before they printed it.
I think that's very dark, but okay. I mean...
So they're where we got the three-ring circus from. So they were the first group to do a three-ring circus. He wrote a book called The Art of Money Getting, which is very similar to The Art of the Deal.
And the similarities don't end there, but all right.
Similar personalities to The Art of the Deal's supposed author, because he didn't actually write that book. Jumbo was a big deal. Jumbo was unfortunately killed in a freak accident. He was struck by a train.
And how does Jumbo relate to where we live?
He's the mascot for Tufts University, Tufts College.
Yes.
He was actually stuffed at Tufts until a fire in 1975.
He was taxidermied?
He was taxidermied.
And then he was burnt?
He was burned in a fire, yeah.
Yikes.
Also, Jumbo tested the Brooklyn Bridge.
Well, if he can walk on it, then anybody can.
So back when the Brooklyn Bridge was finished, there were a lot of people thinking that it couldn't be done because they used a lot of new technology to make the Brooklyn Bridge. And so people were freaked out. So a stampede on the opening day killed 5 or 50 people, something like that.
Jeez.
And P.T. Barnum offered the engineers that built the bridge $5,000 to test the bridge with his elephants. And they said no originally, but after the stampede event and the bad press, they agreed. So he walked his entire circus over the Brooklyn Bridge.
And it worked, right?
It did.
So
that's what I have.
Well, that's not a bad history minute.
And Jumbo being struck by a train reminded me of a conversation we had previously about...
Oh, no. Let's not. They don't need to know.
Hung elephants or hanged elephants?
Oh, geez. That conversation will never leave me. All at a grocery store. Who knows why these
things you also brought it back for Valentine's Day.
I may or may not have hung a...
Hanged an
elephant stuffed. Yes, I may have done that. Okay, audience asks.
Audience asks.
So we did already kind of touch on Ryan Terry's. I want to thank him for giving us that. I'm sorry that wasn't during Audience Ask. It was just that's such a big part of the movie. I couldn't just ignore that. Then Two Girls on a Bench, which I haven't heard from them in forever, so I hope they're well. They said, so is Hugh Jackman a triple threat or more? We're thinking more. So, I mean, we did already sing praises of Hugh Jackman here.
Talented actor, nice person, can sing, and...
also can dance, and
he's jacked out of his mind.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And I mean, he also is great in dramas because I mean, look at Logan. So
great in dramas. I mean, he was also great in Les Mis, which is
how many is this?
7.
So he's a
septuple threat.
Septuple. So that's our answer. 2 girls on a threat. 2 girls on a bench. As I'm saying, threat at the same time.
Like he might have more skills than Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, ooh. I said it.
You're a man saying
controversial opinion.
Ooh, I don't know.
Unpopular opinion. He might have more talent than Ryan Reynolds.
I mean, Ryan Reynolds would never hear a clip from our podcast, so hopefully that never gets to him. But if
he is in Boston right now.
We're not that important.
No.
But if in some alternate universe he ever heard that, I would like to say that I did not say that.
They have a great bromance, though. They're like really good friends, and they go back and forth and mess with each other.
Probably because they're both amazing humans.
Yeah.
So that's probably what it is. Okay. And then we have Krista. Now,
Okay.
I love when Krista comes and talks to us. So she said, I'm going to have to keep
She's
thinking.
our favorite person, basically, ever.
Well, let's not write off all of our audience, but she has an enormous place in my heart.
Top 5 Hall of Fame Mount Rushmore of our listeners.
But so she said, I'm going to have to think of more questions, but do you think that the bartender is awesome? His part of the choreography during The Other Side is honestly underappreciated. Do you agree?
Yes.
Just yes.
That whole scene is just so freaking good. That whole scene is just great.
I gotta be honest, before she mentioned it, I don't know that I noticed the bartender that much, but I brought it up on YouTube, and seriously.
Oh yeah. He was an integral part of that, where he was positioning the chairs and doing everything in the background. It was a huge part of it.
Do we know who this man is?
No.
I want to know who he is, what his career is. Is he in other musicals? Because I'll watch them. I just want to see him dance again. I want to see. He was coordinated. I also wanted to know if he could sing, because I bet you he can. Just based on his musicality, I bet you he can.
Yeah, probably.
So, as for your question,
was there a single person that couldn't sing in this movie? A single person?
No, what did they call him? The
It's
300-pound man? Is that what they said he was? I don't want to be offensive.
500-pound man?
Whatever they said he was. He was not that. But when he started singing, I was like, what the heck? That
Every
voice?
single person can sing in this movie.
Every single person. Yeah, it was just, granted, that's what happens in musicals, but just, oh my goodness. I want to watch all of them in other movies and listen to their voices.
Although Jenny Lind was actually dubbed for this movie, for the singing. She can sing, the actress can sing, but they changed out for a different singer.
Why?
Because she was supposed to be the best singer in the world. So they just...
Did you find the person even dubbing her the best singer in the world?
No, it was...
She was fine. She was a singer.
But yeah, that was the one person that didn't actually sing, even though she sang when she was doing the performance in front of the extras and all of that.
And she probably would have been just as good.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I didn't listen to her singing thinking anything crazy.
No.
I thought the 500-pound man was a better singer than her, to be honest. Let's be honest. Yeah. I'm just going to say that outright. But yeah, so anyway, yes, Krista, he amazing. And that's the one scene I've probably watched multiple times now. So.
Yeah. That actress was also supposed to be Anne Hathaway, who can belt it.
She can sing?
Oh, she can sing.
What have she sang in?
Ella Enchanted and Les Mis.
I've never seen either one. Okay, then. Okay, so reviews. Do you got them?
Reviews.
You wanted to go first last time because I stole your rating.
Okay, but I still want to know Rotten Tomatoes. But yes, I do want to go first. So make sure that you don't speak after you give me those Rotten Tomatoes.
So Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score, you're going to be disappointed.
What?
57.
How? What? What's wrong with these people?
Critic score is 57.
They thought they were watching a biopic, didn't they?
Audience score 86.
Well, the audience is more correct.
Yeah. So what's your rating?
So I wanted to give it more than I'm going to give it. And I feel bad about it. But after researching and thinking more about it, I had to adjust. So my score is an 8. So I loved it. I thought it was so exciting, so fun, so everything. But first of all, the whole women aspect, treat your women better, people, please. And I have to take off a little bit for kind of completely ignoring all of the horrible things he did. At least give me a footnote saying this man was, plagued with these controversies, and this story is meant to be a happy story and not to ignore the bad things he did, kind of thing. I don't know. Give me something, because I didn't know those things about him. And yeah, it sucks.
It's tremendously off-putting.
It is. When you go and read that, and if this is the only thing you ever saw about P.T. Barnum, and that's all you had, you're going to have a great feeling about a horrible man. So I have to,
I'm going to give it a 9. I
knew you were going to
solid 9. Yes, the real life story is far more complicated and dark than the movie, but that's almost always the case. Movies try to gloss over problematic things. They try to make people more relatable, more likable, and that's not really what this movie is about. This movie is about a great soundtrack, upbeat, and just have a good time.
And nothing else bothers you because I had a good time.
Well, it's the smiles are genuine when you watch this movie. So it's basically his personality. It's like if people are paying for entertainment, entertain them. Yeah. That's the whole crux of the thing, which I think they did superbly well.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I wish I didn't have the stupid things in my head, but I do. But we do have another movie coming up, and again, it's a true story, I guess. Although I don't know if it is. I don't know. I've seen the trailer, but I'm still confused as to what it is. So, what's the name of the movie?
It's gonna be True Stories,
and it's James Franco,
Jonah Hill,
and that's all I know.
Yeah.
I don't know much about this movie. We stumbled upon it.
We saw a trailer. I was hooked with the trailer. I don't know anything about the movie, and I'm excited to see it.
Yes. Now, I already have released Audience Asked, and no one has responded. So I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. We will see. But if you have and you're listening to this, please tweet me. Let me know that you have a question or a topic you want us to cover, because it makes Audience Asked way easier. Otherwise, I really have to think of something on the fly. So please do that for us. But yeah, so that is all I have. So thank you to Jake at Office Music for our intro and outro music. And we will be back next week with True Story.
Thank you all for listening.